All right,
Okay,
so
we're there.
so we are at assimilation part two. Okay, um, so I don't even know why we have to have this conversation, but I think there's some right. It's just like you come to America, you become an American. Okay, if you want to be a foreigner, okay, that's fine. Okay, but don't participate like you're a citizen and you care about the future. Okay, that's why it's called assimilation, right? So you become part of the body politic, right? Anyway, so what are your theories on why it is so difficult to get people to understand what assimilation means?
I think we wouldn't have this discussion unless there was this move for diversity and inclusiveness put on by the liberals and progressive who actually think that they can uh, they can benefit from keeping these people apart. Basically, what we have is used to be it was our education system that was basically the one of the big things that determine assimilation, and that's being hijacked by the left now. So, what do they teach these people? There's really no value in being American. It's wherever you come from is just as good, right? It's just the whole idea that all cultures are equal. That you're bringing something to this country. It doesn't matter what they're bringing. Okay, it's just the fact that they're bringing it, and we don't want to make any value judgments on any of this. So I think it's probably one of the reasons these people uh, don't assimilate, because we have an education system that tells them, oh no, uh, it's not cool to be American. It's cool to keep your identity. Um, so basically, there's no advantage to being a citizen. I mean, because citizenship has really been diminished a lot because you get all the
Yeah, yeah.
benefits without having to commit. So you don't have a skin in the game anymore. So,
Right, right,
I
right.
think that's
Okay.
that's one of the big things about this, that is, we wouldn't have this discussion if it weren't for the education system and liberals in secondary education and higher
Yeah,
education,
yeah,
which is the biggest blocks of impediment to this.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah, and going back to education here, what I'm finding, I mean, in general, in a general conversation with people, let's say born after 1980, is they don't know much about anything. Okay, there's a meme going around is that they make sex education mandatory, but they don't really have like what is that? What's that called? Personal finance is now mandatory,
Right, right.
and
Well, yeah,
and and
because
and then and then it's a and then it's the Howard Zinn approach to history, as opposed to reading, some of the founding documents or something, and the founding
right, right.
documents are, there's the Federalist, but everything else is, I mean, I mean, the text probably wouldn't take up 10 kilobytes of, of text. I mean, it's not voluminous. It is stuff that somebody could master. Now, now, here's another theory about why I think that is different. Why the white working class, for instance, okay, they voted overwhelmingly for Trump, okay, because of his promises about their plight, and why the college educated overwhelmingly supported Hillary, right? Because she's smarter, right? I think part of it is that there's this abstraction from reality that you get when you are in a desk job. Okay, you're not hitting a rock, you're not hitting a hammer on wood. Okay, which ties you to the reality is that if you screw up, you're going to hit your hand, right?
Right,
You
right,
know, you know, you know, you see what I'm saying? Because
right,
if
right,
somebody makes a mistake on their computer, they can backspace or something like that, or their PowerPoint presentation is the wrong color or something,
right,
right?
right,
Because you know that all of them have these highfalutin ideas about the way that the world ought to be, and it's done on
right, right.
PowerPoint, and it has nothing to do with reality.
Well, this is, yeah, that's one of the things about this whole, like, the BLM movement, that's supported by all these college millennials
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff, and police brutality and all this. These are people who've never been in a physical confrontation or even played contact sports, so they have no clue of what is happening out there, right? It's like, oh, couldn't you just, like, not be so rough on these people? Could you, so it's like, well, if you have no idea of what it takes to subdue some of these people. So they think, oh, it's like, why do you have to be so mean? Well, it's just, it just, it's like they're so divorced from reality that, it's like, oh, yeah, policing is just, it's like they think, well, it's like the same reason, like, the cops don't have guns in England, right? I mean, it's like
Right, right.
they're just like, they just don't, they're not dealing with the same kind of people, and they think, oh, couldn't you just reason this out with them? No, it doesn't work that way.
Well,
Well, like community.
and that is the thing about England, right? Is that Bobbies haven't worn guns, but when they do, okay, because parent, and especially for the Met, I guess, right? Is that when they do, it's a freaking automatic rifle, right?
Right, right.
I mean that'll go full automatic, and and really, speaking of that, it's just like what the hell is this cop doing to get stabbed, right? He tussles with this,
Yeah, yeah,
the terrorist, right? Whose reason we'll never know, maybe, okay, why he did it, right? But he tussles with him, gets stabbed, and dies. I mean, good grief! You're supposed to be wearing a bulletproof vest, okay? And then I guess he tried to get into Parliament and get stabbed,
yeah, yeah,
and then the guy gets shot. You know,
yeah, yeah. So yeah,
and then
these
they try
people are,
saving his life.
so they're removed from reality. They're, they have no clue or idea of what's involved in any of this. So
Yeah.
so they don't have any credibility from any of this. This is the same people who, these you could see it. This is part of this subject, but it's kind of like, because you can see all the in the cinema, okay, in movie
Uh huh.
Hollywood, right? They have all
Yeah.
these these are written by millennial guys who've never played contact sports or had a physical. They have all
Yeah.
these, like,
Yeah.
superhero women. It's like
Oh,
superhero women.
jeez.
It's like, it's all these shows. It's where, oh yeah, this chick is, like, beating up all these dudes. Yeah, they might be beating up you guys, any little wimpy guys,
Oh,
but it's
oh,
like
yeah.
it's not based in
Yeah. Yeah.
reality,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's gonna
Yeah.
lead some stupid, millennial girl to go talk shit to a guy and then get smacked in the head and wonders what happened. It's like, oh, I see
Yeah,
this on
yeah, yeah,
TV.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, I mean, come on. You know, so
yeah,
it's
yeah,
just yeah,
yeah.
they're not steeped in reality at all. You know,
Well,
it's
well.
sad, but you know,
Speaking of which, I think I saw this thing on Drudge, right, where there is this rash of men who are now feeling being women, and they're kicking the shit out of real women, right? And and there's no uproar as to this because the guy, according to them, the guy, because he thinks he's a woman, should be treated as a woman, even though whether or not he had his pecker removed, okay, he's still a dude, okay, his
yeah, yeah,
body still produces testosterone. He can take all the estrogen he wants, but he's still a man, and he's still going to kick your ass. I mean, there's one in particular, and she has the eye makeup and everything like that, and she's the poster child for the mixed martial arts. But how, why isn't there this outrage? I mean, that is just
yeah. It's bizarre,
crazy.
but you know, it's one of these. You can't make any. You know, you try to make some logic out of it, but it just defies logic when they're so steeped in this
Yeah, yeah.
ideology of this magnitude. How are you gonna explain any of this to them? It's sort of like this whole thing about assimilation and among a person of color, and this diversity thing is, why does it take a white person to empower you to be proud of what you are, right? It's like
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
but
yeah.
but it comes from white people, which is like really self-serving because it really doesn't address any of this racism or anything, right? It's like, yeah,
Right.
we want diversity because I want to prove that I'm a good person and I accept you, but you're accepting me just because I'm the brown person or a black person, but you don't care what kind of person I am. You're just going to accept me, and
Right,
it does.
right, right.
It's like it doesn't matter if I'm a competent person or incompetent person, but just who you are, and that extends to, this whole inclusiveness and shit. It's just to make white people
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
better
yeah,
about
yeah.
themselves,
Well,
So
well, I'll tell you, and when I went to college, okay, I wasn't, I became nobody's poster child for a minority. It's just like, man, stay away from that guy. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
just like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
everybody gets slack except for freaking Shay because he'll argue with us. No, you know what I mean?
yeah,
But that's the story of our lives, right? It's just like, oh
yeah.
shit. Wonder what
Yeah,
he's gonna say,
you just well that's
It's
like when I talk to when the liberals, that's the thing, they're nice to you until they find out that you don't want to be patronized, right?
yeah, that's
And
right.
you
That's right. That's
and
right.
you don't act like a victim. It's like it's like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
I was talking to I was talking to one of the San Francisco liberals one time, and we were talking about this shit. And I go, well, I really never had a problem. It's just all your attitude. It's like if you walk into some place and you act like you own the place, it's like, why do you need to tell me and patronize me that all this shit? It's like it's an attitude, and
Yeah, 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 yeah.
you don't want to be a victim. You never accept yourself in victimhood.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
well, that's the problem. Okay, that's the problem. Is that as soon as you get out of that, well, this is Thomas Sowell, right? He said that that's the first thing. Is that if you accept the premise that you're a victim, then you're screwed, right?
right, right,
And
yeah, yeah,
and then really when you're a victim, then you're saying that you're powerless and you have to appeal to the man.
right,
I mean, what kind of crap
right.
is
It's
that?
Yeah, yeah, and Pa always understood that. he shit about and he pegged a lot of these people, and he never, it's like they would they because that's why they had to weren't going to go take any welfare. Remember when he lost his job on and they said, it's like, and all their friends told him to go on welfare, and he goes, no, that's a trap. They figured that out. They didn't want to do that. And and so and he always knew when he was being patronized. I mean, it's not hard. I mean, like the our San Francisco liberal family people that we're related to. They, he'd always
kind of, that's tenuous, okay, because like one guy's hair is like, what the hell's that? But that's another story, okay. I mean, some Korean may have gotten into that woodpile, so because that's the only people that I know who'd have hair like that.
Yeah. So, but it's when you see it for what it is. Because I was on a plane one time, and a couple seats away from me is this fat Hispanic chick sitting. I mean, she must have been in her 40s or whatever, but she was talking to another guy, and she's like, "I'm like the dean of diversity at UC Davis." And I just,
oh my God!
It's like, boy, how do you get to be the dean of diversity at UC Davis other than this fat Mexican chick?
Well, I mean,
it's like, what kind of job that you're probably pulling in some good money, but I mean, how much of your time does that take? How much of your time does that take? And I'm just listening. There was some white guy talking to her, and he was so fascinated. It's like, geez, what's with this guy?
Tell me about it.
Oh, yeah, tell me about it. You're doing such good.
And what's probably even worse is that she would have to be a card-carrying member of La Raza.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just like, wait a second, okay? Because normally, being in La Raza I mean that's a freaking racist group, right?
Oh, yeah,
it's just like the race. You know what? And we're going to take care of each other, right? Which I suspected. I mean, this is in the 70s. I said, you know what? That's some weird stuff to think that because it's not about diversity, right?
No,
which is always stupid anyway, because it's not really about. Well, shoot, true story. When I was at Berkeley, teaching, these Dravidians, okay, these black Indians had taken over the Black Student Union. Okay, they probably got kicked out now, right? But it's just like, oh yeah, we're black. Tell me I'm not black.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. There was a guy I used to work with in San Francisco. He was a cook, and he was one of these Dravidians. But but he'd been here a while, and he was acting like a black guy. He would date all the black chicks. That's funny.
Hey, why not? Why not?
But I talk about Dravidians. Remember Sam Midget?
Majid.
The story about Pa. He goes, I thought he was your friend. Mongo's I thought he was your friend. He goes, no, it's been freeloading off us for years, right? So,
oh my God!
Don't come back here anymore.
But you know what the Pa did? Yeah. Oh, Jeffrey Taylor. Oh my God.
Jeffrey Taylor.
Oh my God. Well, you know what? Speaking of Jeffrey Taylor, right? We knew this gay couple, and they were in medical billing back in the early 80s, right? Well, they took on the last name of Ng, right? And so here they are, in order to get a contract, and they said, "Screw that, we're now Chinese." There's a couple white guys, and in order to get a government contract, they had to be minorities, and so so they just changed their name to Ng. Okay, and and back then it was either you do it all by hand, but I think that I went to their house once, and they actually had a card reader because back then it was like batch processing, right? And so they said, I'm gonna go out for coffee or something in the afternoon, and so they said, we'll just wait a second, I can get this thing running. And so they'd already punched the cards, which are probably punched in that medical office, and then
Right.
he pushes the button and it starts reading the cards, and he says, okay, let's go. I mean, it's pretty funny. And he was also a Buddhist. Okay, so I said, well, shoot, so what the hell? But
So we're
right.
going to go to the
Well,
books.
yeah, okay. So it's time for books. What do you got?
I got this thing called can you read that? See that? Or is it backwards
I
to
can't.
you?
Oh, okay. A little back over this way. Okay, Shadow of the Sword. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, you can take it back.
Which is a very interesting book. It's called The Birth of Islam and the Rise of Global Arab Empire. So it goes on to explain how all the world at the time when all of this going on, right? The decline of the Roman Empire and Roman Empire, but also the Persian Empire, both going in decline, right? Around 600.
Okay.
So it explains how that came about and how Muhammad in Saudi Arabia, where it came out of nowhere, but it kind of goes into the whole background of that. But that the Romans and the Iranians had already laid out part of the conditions that made the Arabs take over so quickly, what made them go so quickly, the religion so fast. And then it delves into the whole concept of the Quran and Muhammad itself. And he points out that Muhammad and most of his followers were basically illiterate. So none of the shit that they wrote down, nobody wrote it down. So it's when you compare that to Jesus and because you have the Jewish tradition of keeping everything, writing everything down, right? So they have documentation of all this, but and as far as the Muslims, there's really no documentation until almost they say 150 to 200 years after he died, that all of this stuff starts coming out or what he said or this whole history of what. So most of it was like, well, a lot of it's like oral stuff written down, and then a lot of this stuff was like fabricated, because what happened was all the other the Middle East at the time with the Jews, and then you have the other countries like Iraq and all those other Arab nations at the time, the more advanced Arabs, because the Arabs, like around the Middle East, not in Arabia, were a little bit more sophisticated. The Arabs, because those guys were just like they were still worshiping all these idols and stuff. So the whole gist of it was that what they took for the whole faith was that the whole thing with Abraham and being a common ancestor, and then he was talking about Jesus being a prophet. Well, a lot of that is like just borrowed from the Jews and the Christians. Okay, then because a lot of that, and because the guy points out, like, how could these Muslims prohibit the eating of pork where there was never a pig in in Arab countries? In Saudi Arabia, pigs were never a livestock that was raised out in the middle of nowhere. And they might have had some pigs in the Middle East, even among the Jews and stuff, but that was miles and miles away, right? So they're like comparing all this, and then he comes up and says, what happened? Why the whole Muslim thing expanded so quickly because the
It was a
what was it,
vacuum.
was the vacuum, but also that they were co-opted by the Abbasids and the Iraqis, okay,
Uh-huh.
who had already been pretty sophisticated in terms, because Iraqis, what they were like Babylonians or
Okay.
whatever they were,
Okay. Yeah.
you know,
Right.
so
Right. Right.
so
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
are, and those
Yeah.
people uh, had already been pretty sophisticated in terms of their written language and all that stuff because
Uh-huh.
they knew like
Yeah.
bureaucracy. So once they co-opted the religion, they made it spread faster because they had a bureaucracy. They collected taxes because the only thing these Arabs were doing was
Right.
like
Right.
looting
Yeah.
and pillaging. So these people like learned how to like levy taxes, had some kind of hierarchy, and so they had
Right.
kingdoms
Right.
and stuff because otherwise this would have never came about the way
Right.
the
Right.
Arabs were
Yeah.
running it. So
Makes sense.
it's a really good analysis of a lot of stuff that because you have so many things in like the Quran and then you have the surahs and you have all these different books, but a
Right.
lot of
Right.
those that stuff was written hundreds of years after Muhammad, right? So
Yeah.
they don't
Yeah.
even know.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
because they try to fabricate the whole thing about because Muhammad was in a cave and he had the same kind of thing with the burning bush kind of mountain thing, right? So a lot of
Right.
this
Right.
stuff was just
Right. Right.
co-opted from the Jews, So
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so
All right.
it's
All
interesting,
right.
interesting. A lot
Okay.
of
Okay. All right. Okay. So the book that I have is is uh, is really about the you know what? Okay. So I probably had this. You know what? It could be your copy. I don't know. Anyway, so I was looking for something to read around the house. Pick this up. Pretty good. It's part of a trilogy. Okay.
uh
The development of the empire, and then the decline of the empire. So,
right,
so it's pretty good. It's he isn't he covers a lot of the facts, but what he's about is just trying to capture the what what people were thinking at the time. Okay, so he's so he starts off with the diamond jubilee of Victoria, and then it plunges right into you know what, Khartoum and Kitchener, and of course the Mahdi,
right,
which then wraps into your story,
right,
and then it goes into and of course so you've got Churchill and Victoria in this, and and of course the whole Lion series, so but. But the Boer Wars covered quite a bit, and I know that you've been to South Africa,
yeah, yeah.
so did you see any of the monuments or anything? That's
Yeah,
probably worth the
actually,
trip
we
together or
were,
something, because
yeah,
yeah, because
yeah, we saw, but the complaint was that all these monuments and stuff were going to shit because the natives weren't taking care of them.
oh
It's like
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
was the
yeah,
complaint of the guy, the guy who owned the safari
yeah,
thing was that,
yeah,
yeah, we have to tell
yeah.
them how to do everything because they really don't have any, have any
Well,
clue of
yeah,
how
yeah,
to, the
yeah,
infrastructure.
yeah,
But then at least their influence there was is they still have a better infrastructure than anybody around them because once you
yeah,
go into
yeah,
Botswana and
yeah,
Namibia, the roads are so bad everybody drives on the shoulder. So you got the roads
yeah.
which are up here, and then everybody drives down here because everything's worn away from people
Oh my
driving on the
God! Oh
shoulders.
my God!
So yeah,
Well,
it's
it's just one of those things, is that civilization isn't as deep as you think. I
no,
mean,
no, it isn't,
so
yeah, but that's you leave people to their natural inclinations, and yeah,
yeah,
there's something
yeah, yeah,
have to be said about Western white people. At least they brought some of this shit, but then they get kicked out,
well,
and
yeah,
they
yeah. I
get
mean,
I mean,
it's yeah, yeah. No, 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 no. Seriously, it is about keeping it, because because you have like an empire like Angkor Wat, right? And then it goes to shit, right? And it's just like, oh man, look at this thing, right? So, oh, what happened? That was about 600 years ago. Shit fell apart, so we left. And the same with the Mayans and stuff. So it's
Have
just
you seen?
how you
Yeah, I was watching this thing on Smithsonian was talking about Burma and the whole thing about Pagan and all
yeah, yeah,
and the
yeah,
Shui
yeah,
Dagon and all that
yeah,
shit
yeah,
was built because of the whole Buddhist thing, right? So it's
yeah.
pretty incredible. I mean, it's a series by Smithsonian if you can get a hold of it. It's
Okay,
the two
okay,
parts. I was watching
yeah,
that with May and Sway the
okay,
other night. Really
okay,
interesting
okay,
about how
yeah, yeah,
this period from like 1100 to 1300, they built like 4,000 of these stupas and
yeah,
pagodas
yeah,
and all on that plain. And
yeah, yeah,
so, all had to do with the Theravada Buddhism, and so
yeah, yeah,
very
yeah,
interesting in
yeah.
how, and now it's all,
Okay.
some of it's like so well built that it's standing the test of time, but then some of
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
small, some of the
So it's,
other ones are real schlocky, right? When the tourists come, because that's where the tourists come now, in air conditioned buses
yeah,
and stuff. And then you got the
yeah,
locals, right? Who like, because really there's so many of these little things that people want to see them, so they make their little picture postcards and stuff, and then they're trying to declare these World Heritage sites, right? So they can preserve them, but since the money for those only goes to the well-connected people who want to
yeah,
do the big
yeah.
thing.
You
The
bastards. Yeah,
local,
yeah,
the more the Burmese who kind of like, oh yeah, you want to see this, so they restore some of these pagodas, but the paint's like really funky, and so they paint shit, and then they make up stories, right? I was expecting to see blue tarp and stuff,
Eh,
you know.
oh
But
my
I
God,
mean,
that's funny
people
stuff.
looking for
That's
the
funny
money,
stuff.
So yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty funny,
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
but
Okay, okay, okay.
yeah.
So what did you eat lately?
Well, when they were here, I made pork curry with pork belly. Uh,
Okay,
you
is
know,
is that with skin or not? It's just a
no,
fatty.
just a fatty. Went to Costco and they got pork belly, right? It comes
Uh
in
huh.
slices like thicker than
Okay.
bacon. It's cut like bacon, and we
Yeah,
get
yeah,
it,
yeah,
and just
yeah,
cut it up into good sized pieces. It's not very thick, but
yeah, yeah.
and then cooked it with some onions, garlic, and ginger.
Okay,
I
okay,
didn't use a lot of spices. Just use soy sauce, a little no turmeric, just uh,
okay.
soy sauce, mirin,
Yeah.
and
Nice,
paprika. So it's very mild, a little
nice,
sweet,
nice.
but
Okay.
it was a
Yeah.
good contrast because since we had a beef jaw with it, so
Oh,
it's
okay. Lovely,
yeah,
lovely.
it's like kind of the curry
Yeah,
pie used to
yeah,
make that
yeah,
was
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
mild, but
yeah, yeah,
it's really
yeah,
good because the pork was so tender, it just melted. The fat just melts in your mouth.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
pork belly. So it was good. What did you make?
Good, good, good. Okay. So we've been watching this Netflix on the Samurai Gourmet, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so and I went to Walmart and bought a $19 portable barbecue, right? And
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
this table in the back, right? And then so then I fold its little legs in, and it's about probably 20 inches, in diameter.
Uh-huh.
Stuck that on the table, right? Had marinated. Oh, I went to this Asian food store, and you know what? It's total Asian everything, and bought about a pound and a half of like thin sliced ribeye, marinated
Uh,
that in some store bought bulgogi sauce, and then
yeah, yeah.
because of that show, then you then put each piece on, right, and then let it cook. You flip it over and just eat
Oh,
it from
yeah. It's
there.
good. Yeah,
But
yeah.
but you got to do these kind of things because
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what. So now you see, I have to find myself a nice cast iron, hibachi like we used to steal.
Oh yeah, you see. Remember that time we stole one? We only took the top of it.
Oh
Remember
my
that
God.
one? We're walking away.
Oh my
We're
God.
walking away, and it's like, oh, this damn thing's light. I think it was me and Sue John or something. We're walking away, and we just took the top of it. So we just took the grill, and then
Oh
we,
my
oh shit,
God.
this
Oh my
thing.
God. That's pretty damn funny. Oh, all
Oh
right.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Okay. Okay. Hey, hey. All right. All right. We're gonna
All right.
sign off
So
here.